Hello, welcome to or back to the Eight Pillars podcast. My name is Kate, and today we have a new episode after months of no episodes because I've been taking a very long break from recording, which honestly has a lot to do with today's topic. So I just want to get right into this, and I think we can do a bit of a life updates episode another time, but for now I want to get into the topic because I've been getting a lot of questions from the videos that I've been making on TikTok, and I want to try to, in different episodes, cover like different sections of this topic because I feel like there's just so much to talk about. So let's just get right into it. So today we're talking about my journey in getting off the birth control pill. I'm almost officially 3 months off the pill after being on it for 9 years. I was on it since I was 15 years old, and I'm now 24. I'll be 25 in April. And it's just been a really long time. For starters, a lot of people are wondering what birth control pill I was on. I was on the pill, and I was on a pill called Sprintec 28. It is a combination pill, I'm pretty positive, and I know that it's a lower form of estrogen pill, and that's not something that I purposely chose. I don't really know why that was given to me. I kind of just went on it, didn't have problems, and stuck with it. But I have a friend who has to take lower forms of estrogen birth control because she has breast cancer in her family. And that's the only reason that I know that it's a lower form of estrogen, because we take the same pill. I think we both have since high school taken the same pill. So that's the only reason I know that. And then I want to talk about my experience first being on the pill. So I remember I was a sophomore in high school when I went on the pill. I was kind of just given it. It was kind of just like that age where my mom was like, okay, this is the time I went on the pill, so you're going to go on the pill. It was very normalized as something you kind of just do once you get to a certain age. And it was also just like preached by doctors that it's going to help even out everything and make everything great, when in fact it obviously kind of does the opposite in the long term for most women. But that was the instruction that I was under, so I just went with it. I didn't know any better. I didn't know that it could be harmful. So I went on it then. I remember I lost my period for like 2 or 3 months right when I started the pill. I only remember this because I was at like lacrosse practice and it unexpectedly just came, and I was like, finally, and then it lasted for like a month because I had missed it for so long. So right off the bat, definitely took some getting used to. Prior to starting the pill, I got normal like teenage breakouts. I was also a chronic face picker. I kind of still have that problem, but I never had like deep cystic acne. I'd get like one maybe around the time of my period, but overall never had serious acne before the pill. Something to note. I also never had major issues prior to the pill in terms of like my cycle or anything like that I can remember. I honestly have no idea if I had a regular cycle before the pill. I feel like that was something I just didn't really pay attention to at that age. I also was very much a late bloomer. I didn't get my first period ever until 8th grade, which I feel like can be a little bit late for most people. So while on the pill, I struggled with my skin on and off. I always pretty much had a regular period while being on the birth control pill, although I know it's not like a real period, but I still was having one every month. It would last about like 5 days. And my skin went through fluctuations. Like I can tell you the exact years of my life that I had the worst skin possible. Like I went through periods where I'd have clear skin, but I never ever had like nothing on my face. So my skin was never perfect. I know that happens to a lot of people while they're on the pill. They just have the most perfect skin mostly all the time. That was never really a thing for me, and it got to the point where my sophomore year going into my junior year of college, I had the worst acne of my entire life. Still on the pill, keep in mind, point where I had to get on Accutane. So that's like a big disclaimer. I want to just say right off the bat, I did have to go on Accutane while on the pill. It completely cleared my skin, but since getting off Accutane, it's now been like 3 or 4 years since I've been off, probably 4 years since I've been off it. I get breakouts, but nothing major. I have a good skincare routine and that keeps that in check. Otherwise, for symptoms while I was on the birth control pill, never had any serious symptoms. I always was a thinner girl. I had a hard time gaining weight, and I didn't gain weight from going on the pill, but I started gaining weight once I started my 9 to 5, as a lot of us do once we are like sitting at a desk all day and aren't moving around like we are in college or in high school. I noticed like normal weight gain, I feel like, for my age at that time, and definitely noticed that like I can't just eat whatever I want anymore. But I just want to get that out of the way, that the pill did not make me gain weight, because I was on it for 9 years and I didn't gain weight till I started my 9 to 5. So I think that was more like life circumstances that made me start to gain weight, but it's been manageable with like diet and exercise. Another thing that I experienced while being on the pill is a lack of emotion. It would take a lot for me to cry. Like, it was kind of like a joke with some of my really close friends that they've like never seen me cry because I just wasn't super emotional. I felt pretty numb at times, and I feel like I could go into like a daze and get really hyper focused on like sometimes negative things, not all the time. Sometimes I would just, I don't know, I would just go into a daze where I felt like pretty numb. I didn't feel like very excited about things. And that would come in phases. Like, obviously, it could have also been circumstantial with life, but I definitely think that I was way less emotional while on the pill now that I'm off the pill for 3 months. So that's something else to note. Otherwise, in terms of negative symptoms, I would get headaches sometimes. That was a thing. But yeah, so that's like a summary of my experience on birth control. Those would be my negative experiences. Overall, my most negative experience while on the pill was my skin. That was the one that like affected my life the most. Otherwise, everything was pretty much fine. Now we're going to get into talking about why I wanted to get off the pill to begin with. And huge disclaimer that I'm going to start with. I'm not against birth control. I think that all women should have access to birth control. I think that it's a wonderful thing. I'm not encouraging anybody to get off the pill. I'm just sharing my experience for those that are interested in potentially one day getting off it, or maybe getting off it when you're ready to have kids. I love watching videos and listening to podcasts about this topic. I find it fascinating. I think that women's health is something that is very understudied and not talked about enough, and with the rise in social media, I think that it's being talked about more, and I am happy to contribute anything to that. I'm not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. I'm just fully giving my experience, because sometimes I think that we can learn a lot from people that might be similar to us in certain ways, how we might react, but in the end, our bodies are completely different. Your experience getting off the pill might be completely different than mine. Your experience on the pill might be completely different than mine, and it probably is. Just want to start by saying that and getting that out of the way. Another thing with getting off the pill is that I think it's extremely circumstantial to your life, and that you should wait to get off the pill. If you're someone like me that's been on it for years and years, you should wait until you're at a point in your life where you feel like regulated and you're like in a safe routine, a safe space, because it's an extremely drastic change for your body. And having consistency in like every part of your life, I think, is one of the keys to really regulating your hormones as quickly as possible. And that's something I'm going to get into, but I really don't think that it's the right time for everybody. Like, last year I was living in Boston, which was a brand new city that I've never lived in. If I had gotten off the pill last year, I probably would have been a wreck. Like, even within these first 3 months, I know that I'm very early in my journey, but having consistency and stability in your routine, in the air that you're breathing, the water that you're drinking, I think it all plays a role in the food that you're eating, a huge role in regulating your hormones. And I can't imagine what my experience would have been if I tried to do this last year as opposed to this year, which I will get into. So now that we got through those major disclaimers, we're going to get into what I did to prepare my body to get off the pill. So first things first, about a year or two ago, I got this book, Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighten, and I started reading it, and then I absolutely panicked, because this book basically tells you like what birth control is actually doing to our bodies. So I don't recommend reading it unless you're actually like thinking that you're close to getting off the pill. Unless you're like me and you're just fascinated by these things and you like to overplan, which is kind of what I did with reading it that early, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to get off the pill anytime soon, because I just didn't feel like my life was in that stable sort of place to do that. I still read through it, got an idea of like what the planning would take to put me in the best position to hopefully smoothly transition off the pill. Another thing to keep in mind, some people don't do any preparation and they're fine. Like, everybody's body is different. I have my best friend who went off completely cold turkey, like didn't even, I don't think, finished her whole pack, like completely cold turkey. I have other friends who did that. They were completely fine. No major issues, no terrible skin, like nothing that all the horror stories that you see on social media, like, didn't happen to any of them. But I am unfortunately just not a relaxed person. I've just never been relaxed. I have to overplan, because I want to at least put myself in the best position for things to go smoothly, so that if things do go south, then I know that I did my best, I prepared as best as I could, and it just makes me feel better. So do what you want. I'm just here to share what I did. So I read her book. I didn't read the whole thing because she caters it to different symptoms that you might be experiencing specifically. So not everybody is going to be reading the same parts of this book, because she has little quizzes that help you to identify different hormonal issues that you might have and what you might need to help support those. Another thing is that reading that book and taking her quizzes is not the same as getting actual hormone testing done, which is something that she does recommend to do. But I also saw a naturopath. So moving on to this topic, I read that book. I got a good idea on like diets, lifestyle things, supplements. Basically in that book, she goes through a 30-day Brighten program is what she calls it, where you're taking liver detox supplements, you're taking probiotics to help like reset your gut, you're gluten and dairy free, and basically I think sugar free too, and like no alcohol, drinking tons of water, all those things. So I kept all of those like principles in mind, as well as her discussing the importance of regulating your circadian rhythm, because that's huge in regulating your hormones. So I knew right off the bat, like I need to be going to bed at the same time, waking up around the same time, as best as I can. Obviously, it's hard on the weekend sometimes when I have plans. And then also trying to be gluten and dairy free as much as possible and limit my sugar. And when I do have sweet things, I really tried to focus on them being like some form of natural sugar, like maple syrup, or I'm making like a gluten-free dessert where I'm using like dark chocolate instead of like, trying to pick cleaner ingredients than just like buying just like a packaged dessert. So that's kind of how I've overcome my like sweet tooth situation. I'm going to get into my naturopath experience as well, because that also impacted my choices in diet. But the one other thing that I have done since the month before I got off the pill was cut out all alcohol. So I think I had my last drink, like with a little last hurrah, moving out of Boston with my roommates there. And then I had a full month off prior to getting off the pill, while I was still on the pill, that I had no alcohol. And I was also focusing on this gluten and dairy-free diet as much as possible. Not 100%, but I'll get into that. And focusing on limiting my sugar intake as well. So moving on to my experience with the naturopath. So I saw a naturopath because as of last year, I started developing like perioral dermatitis around my mouth and my nose. It was these little teeny tiny bumps that would be triggered by like sweat and sunscreen. Like I still have not found a sunscreen that hasn't caused me to react. But since then, with my changes in diet and everything, I've got it under control. But in the summer, I had a terrible reaction when I went to visit one of my friends in Denver, because I wore this sunscreen in like 100-degree weather. So any sort of occlusive product can like really anger perioral dermatitis. I had the worst reaction. It made me flip out, and then my friend that was with me on that trip recommended me her naturopath. So that's kind of how I got there. And when you're seeing a naturopath, typically they try to treat like the whole body, because everything is connected, which I love that. I think that's how it should be. And she asked me like all these different issues that I had. So we ran a bunch of testing to see any deficiencies in like vitamins. We looked at food sensitivities. We also did a nose swab of my nose because I have sinus problems. You can probably hear it in my voice. But those are the tests that she ran. She did not run hormone testing. She basically encouraged me that I should probably get off the pill, and she told me that she could give me things to help support that transition. So I will also get into what those things are. But basically, that was kind of the rundown of the testing that we did. We wanted to see any sort of food sensitivities I could have that could be impacting this like rash situation that I'm having. A lot of food can also, like dairy, can also trigger sinus problems, things like that. So yeah, overall, I was kind of seeing her to help deal with those issues while also helping me transition off the pill. So like I said, in the Dr. Brighten book, she gives like liver detox pills, probiotic, like gut reset, all these things. So my naturopath did the same thing. So instead of following the Brighten program and her specific supplements that she gave for gut and liver, I followed my naturopaths. So starting a month and a half leading up to getting off the pill, I was taking these gut supplements, liver supplements, and then she also put me on this pill called OC Companion by the brand Vitanica. Keep in mind, none of these things are sponsored. I paid hundreds of dollars for all of these supplements. So purchased with my own hard-earned money. Nothing is sponsored. I wish that these things were sponsored. I also show these actual bottles in a video on my TikTok. So if you want to go see that, Kate Allison Bilodeau, that is my TikTok. Check it out. I have so many videos on like specifics. But for the month leading up to the pill, that's what I was taking. And I felt like things really were working well. Then we got my blood work done. Also, keep in mind, this is pre-blood work. So these supplements are really just to help like anybody's gut and anybody's liver and anybody transition off the pill. It's not based specifically on my blood work. So you could do it too. It really helped me. So we got my blood work back. I got to see all my food sensitivities. I was low in magnesium and I had a really high my highest sensitivity was to eggs, which sucks because I love eggs. Both egg whites and egg yolks I had high sensitivities to, among a bunch of other things that were all rated a 1. The scale was like 1, 2, 3. I didn't have any 3s, which are the worst sensitivities. And then 2 I had for eggs, and then everything else was a 1. So I've tried to just like avoid those things. Another thing in my test was that I had 1 elevated thyroid hormone levels or whatever, which was leaning towards, I'm not speaking in scientific terms, by the way, but it was leaning towards Hashimoto's, which is what my mom has. So that runs in my family. She said that I don't have thyroid disease, but through diet, I could keep that in check. And basically the diet for Hashimoto's, I guess, is gluten and dairy free, which kind of worked out perfectly because I also noticed that I feel my absolute best. My skin's my absolute best when I'm avoiding gluten and dairy, more specifically gluten. I always don't drink milk, but I have cheese. I have pizza. Like I can't completely cut out cheese, but I don't have it often enough that it would affect me. So that's kind of just also more of a reason for me on this hormone journey to avoid gluten and dairy because I don't want to get thyroid disease. So that's something that I'm also keeping in mind during this process. So then I basically had that first month taking all those supplements, and then I met with her about my blood work, and she transitioned me after I finished those bottles to another like strain of probiotics. She had me do like a spore-based one. I don't know. She also explains all of this because she basically has you do the same thing in the Jolene Brighten book. So something to check out, or you can check out mine because they're available for, I think, anybody to purchase. And then I transitioned in the next month to new probiotics, which had me take more magnesium than I used to take. I was only taking magnesium glycinate before. And then when she saw that I was low in magnesium, she gave me this blend. It's called Supra Mag is the actual like brand name, I think. And it's like 3 different types of magnesium, including glycinate, which I take at nighttime. And that's also just great for hormone health. So I take 2 of those capsules at night. Again, check out my TikTok if you want to know like specific dosage and everything that I was doing. But I'm still to this day taking the magnesium, I take a probiotic, and I take the liver detox. Everything else, the gut pills, besides the 1 probiotic, I phased out of. She told me to eventually stop those, which I love because I don't like taking things super long term. Just supposed to be like a reset for 3 months. And then the other thing, I mentioned how she had me taking this pill called OC Companion. While I was on my last month of the pill, she then had me transition my first month off the pill to this pill called Fem Rebalance, which is supposed to help regulate your cycle and get you back on track naturally through like a bunch of herbs. So first month, she had me take 4 capsules. Second month off the pill, she had me take 2. Third month, completely stopped. So I haven't taken it this whole month, and so far, so good. So that basically covers my whole naturopath journey. I don't want to keep boring everybody with supplements, but I think it's important. People keep asking me questions, so I wanted to go through that. Now moving on to what else I did to prep my body. Like I said, I tried to go to bed around the same time every night, wake up around the same time every night, really have a good solid nighttime routine that would help me get to bed, like putting my phone away, plugging it in upstairs, like when I went to go do anything else for that evening, so that I was like exposing myself to the least amount of blue light possible. But I still would watch shows with my boyfriend, so I know that that's still a form of blue light, but I just tried to limit it overall. I'm not 100% at any of these things. I'm just trying to limit them and everything in moderation as much as possible. So just like getting my phone away from me by like 7, 8 o'clock is great. And I like to also take showers at night with my red light on because that really calms me down and helps me like tell my brain it's time to go to bed. I also like to read for like an hour to 30 minutes before I go to bed because that also helps me to sleep better, fall asleep more quickly. Another thing, at nighttime I've been drinking spearmint tea every single day, sometimes twice a day, because I'm trying to keep my testosterone levels in check, because I heard that after like the 4 to 6 month mark, your testosterone can really kick in because it's blocked when you're taking the pill. And that's when people see those like hormonal breakouts and super oily skin and oily scalp, all those kinds of things. So I'm taking that just to keep that in check, even though I haven't hit that 4 to 6 month mark. That's the other thing. Like, everybody keeps reminding me that like the worst post birth control symptoms come at like 4 to 6 months, some even to a year. I'm trying to just be as positive as possible because I am a stress case, and if I get those things in my head, I will bug out about it and potentially bug out to the point that I give myself symptoms through stress. So I'm just doing things to try to give myself the best shot possible. And all these diet changes, skincare that I'm doing, tea, supplements, that's all helping not only to, I think, support my cycle in this process, but also just support my confidence in like taking care of myself and regulating things myself. And I have talked about this in my TikToks, but I have gotten 2 regular periods, 28 days apart. And this weekend I'm supposed to get my 3rd one. So let's pray that it comes. But I think it's a good sign in everything that I'm doing that I've gotten them since the very first month. Of course, that could change at any time as my body adjusts even more, but I'm just taking it 1 month at a time right now. Another thing that I've been doing, and I've been doing this since getting off the pill, and I also did this to prepare to get off the pill, was try to change my workouts around different parts of my cycle. So basically, I might butcher this right now, I know what it is, but ovulation and follicular, I think you can go a bit harder with your workouts than luteal, and your period, of course, you should do lower intensity. The goal of this is just to not spike your cortisol, and if you're doing high intensity workouts around the time of your period, you might experience worse period symptoms. You might also just not get a period. So yeah, I've been forming my workouts around those parts of my cycle just like loosely. I don't have like a specific workout that I'm switching to every time, but I'll just like lift lighter. I will not do like sprints on the treadmill during the time of my period. I will just walk, which I typically walk anyways, but sometimes when I'm ovulating or in my follicular phase, I will amp it up a bit because I know my body can take that, but it's also very intuitive. And since being off the pill, I'm able to be like, ooh, yeah, not feeling that workout today, but I'm feeling a long walk. So I'm just kind of like listening to what my body needs through like levels of crampiness, my energy levels, things like that. They kind of let me know like what I'm able to take for that day. And I'm just listening to that. That's been the most amazing thing about being off the pill, which I haven't even gotten into that whole topic yet. But just having the opportunity to be more intuitive with things like workouts and eating and sleeping has been great. But to prepare, I also focused on switching my workouts around so that I wasn't spiking my cortisol, and that helped with the transition. Another thing, I really focused on hydration. I also focused on detox, which kind of go hand in hand in terms of sweating a lot. So I would either do sauna or hot yoga. And I've been going hard with hot yoga now that I have a membership to this yoga place that I love near where I live. And I'm doing that like twice a week, and I absolutely get drenched. Like, it's so hot in there. So I think that that's really good for just like flushing your system a couple times a week. And then, of course, you have to replenish what you lost. So having electrolytes. I like the Element powder. They're expensive, but I love them. Sometimes I also get this brand Ultima at Whole Foods. I think those are good too. They have really good lemonade flavors. Don't know how good those ones are for you, but I know that Element is good. It's just really, really high sodium. So maybe don't have them every day, just after a really big sweat. But yeah, staying hydrated is huge. You have to detox your liver and your gut. So you got to be drinking water. Another thing that unfortunately is really TMI, and I don't want to talk about this, but I have to say it if I'm going to sit here and talk about women's health and hormones. You have to be going to the bathroom every day. Sorry. That's all I'm going to say in terms of details, but you have to be going to the bathroom every single day to get rid of excess estrogen. That is something that we have to do in order to be our healthiest selves. So if you are not having a regular bathroom schedule, it doesn't have to be the same time every day, although it's great. It's a great sign if it is. But if you're not going every day, you need to be focusing on your fiber intake, moving your body, drinking lots of water. If those things aren't working, especially the fiber, and if like probiotics and things like that aren't helping you, maybe try to go see a naturopath too, because it really is so important, and it's just something that has to be talked about with this topic. Another thing, I heard that eating carrots helps to bind to excess estrogen in our body and flush it out, if you know what I mean. So I've been eating a lot of like large carrots. I've like peel them and have like 2 or 3 a day during the weekdays. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, I've been having a good experience. So I'm not saying like scientifically 100% all of these things are working, but they're things that I've learned and incorporated it into my everyday or sometimes my routine, and everything's been going well for me. So that's just something I wanted to briefly touch on. So yeah, increase your fiber. Have a yogurt bowl with like chia seeds, hemp seeds. This is what I do. I have granola that has like nuts in it, gluten-free granola, of course. And yeah, it makes me feel great first thing in the morning. But yeah, I also have made videos on things that I eat. So feel free to check out my TikTok for that as well. I feel like we've touched on a lot, but I also want to cover a huge topic, and that is stress. That is the whole reason that I waited until right now to get off the pill, because last year I moved to Boston. Basically, I've lived in New Hampshire my entire life, and I moved to Boston in the city, which I've never lived in a city before, with my girlfriends for a year, and it was very fun. But the environment was completely different for me. I was breathing in a lot lower quality air. I was right in the heart of the city. Couldn't really open my window. I basically was relying on my air purifier to be like filtering the air, which is so bad. I know the vents in my apartment were just like not super often cleaned, which is not great. So I just know the air quality wasn't great. I'd step outside, there's like cigarette smoke and there's just like nothing great about the air quality there. Same with the water, city water, not great. We had like a shower filter and everything, but we didn't have them on our sinks. We had a Brita, but there's only so much you could do when you're like 24 years old and you don't have thousands of dollars to get like a reverse osmosis water filter, which I really want, but we just did what we could. And I do think that drastic shift in like air quality and water, moving from New Hampshire to Boston, not to say necessarily that everywhere in New Hampshire has high quality water, because I know it doesn't, but actually know for a fact that it doesn't. It still was just a shift for my body that my body wasn't familiar with. So for me to stop taking birth control, throw off my hormones while my body is already adjusting to my new environment, would have been a recipe for disaster in terms of symptoms. So I now have moved to a place. I don't know if I really want to like share the specific place that I've moved on this episode, but if you know me, it's probably pretty easy to figure out. But moved in with my boyfriend, and my goal in moving here, I guess this is a little bit of a mini life update, was to find a place that just felt like so peaceful and relaxing, and that I just like loved like being home in. I wanted to really enjoy coming home to a place and it like really feeling like my home. And the place that we moved, I'm very familiar with because I've grown up around it. It's also by the ocean. I love the ocean. I realize living in a city how much I appreciate nature and how much it helps just like my brain. I really can relax when I can get out into nature and I can have fresh air. It just like, it's amazing for me. And I think I needed that perspective flip to be in a city and see how important those things are to me. So I really, we were looking for apartments, I was like, just wanting a place that felt so comfy, cozy, and like safe for me mentally, physically, emotionally, all the things. I feel like I really am big on like energy in the places that I live. Like I can tell you how like every place that I've ever lived, like throughout college, home, like what it did to me. Like I can explain everything. So I'm huge on that. And I kind of had a year in the city of feeling a little bit unregulated. Like my nervous system, I would say, is unregulated. I think that's the word that I've been looking for this entire time I've been explaining this. I wanted to find a place here that really regulated my nervous system. So we were looking for places. We found a place. I wanted it so bad. I was like, something about this place just feels right. The location, the setup, it's kind of like a colonial style home, which is very like the whole vibe of where I live, which I love. I just love that. So everything about it, I wanted it. We got it. Here we are. I'm sitting in my office right now, which I love. I love everything about it. So I knew once I found this place that I was like 100% sure I'm getting off the pill once we get here, because I feel like now's the time to do it, because I don't have any major life events coming. This is kind of like a transition year of settling into a new town, sort of new to me, not really new because I've been here a million times before, but a new place to live. But it's still familiar, where it feels like safe. I feel calm here. I feel like so excited to be home. I love it. Like, I love everything about my space. It feels clean. I just love it. So I knew that it was the right time. So I would say that until you're at a place like I am now, maybe don't try to do that. Like, make sure you're at a place where, like, you think you might be there a while. You don't have any major life events where if something does go wrong, where you, like, break out horribly, have to, like, figure out your skin. Like, you don't want to have your wedding that year. You know what I mean? Like, you want to know that you have time to transition and have a lot of time to be home, honestly, and have a consistent routine. Consistency is key in this. I swear to you, when I have to, like, go home for something or go visit friends for, like, birthdays or, like, sleep somewhere, I can feel it, like, shake up my body a bit. It's crazy how sensitive I am to that stuff, but it really is so amazing that I have the opportunity this year to be home as much as possible and to be in a home that I feel like so relaxed and safe, and I just, like, love it. So it was the perfect time for me. I would really consider your environment and your mental state and also, like, life events of the first year that you're getting off the pill. People say that like, the bad symptoms can hit after a year. So you really don't know, but, like, give yourself time. Like, it's a big adjustment. It's not something to take lightly, and I think that it should be something really thought through, in my opinion, but not everybody thinks that it's that deep, and some of my friends got off cold turkey and they were fine, but that would just be my suggestion when getting off the pill. But that's basically everything that I wanted to cover in terms of preparation and getting off the pill, and why I did it, what my experience on the pill was like. I want to make this a series for sure, so I want to keep giving consistent updates in addition to videos that I'm making on TikTok, updating month by month. I want to give updates on the podcast. And I think the next episode we can get into more symptoms that I've experienced since being off the pill, since by then I'll also be, like, over 3 months off the pill, which I think can give you a bit more of an accurate representation of, like, what it's like to be off after some time goes by. So yeah, I think these are all the things that I wanted to cover today. If I forget anything, I will keep adding to these episodes. So if you have any questions, comment, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, let me know, message me. I'm happy to answer everybody's questions. I've been commenting back to mostly everybody. So yeah, thank you for listening. I'm very excited about this, and I will see you for the next episode.